Hello, dear friends, and welcome back to the Her New Era podcast. It is your host, Katie, coming at you with a very special Q&A episode of our podcast. So if you follow me on socials, you know that I put out a question box last week over just any questions or comments or anything you guys wanted me to address on this podcast. And I have a few that I thought were really good and that I think we can have a lot of great dialogue around that I want to go ahead and address right now for you guys. So this is going to be a very special Q&A episode of Her New Era podcast. Hopefully we do more of these in the future, but I kind of want to talk about the things that, you guys find relevant to yourselves. With that, the very first question that we had is, what advice do you have on how to stay hungry even after you are successful? This one, I think it's one of those things, success is relative. It's relative to whoever's experiences, seeing it. And if we're talking about, like monetary success, like money in the bank, I think one of the things that anyone has to realize is like these numbers that when we first get started out, we see in our head and we're like, oh, if I could just make that, right? If I could just hit $10,000 a month, if I could just hit $20,000 a month, if I could just hit 50, right? And then you see someone out there hitting 100 and like, that's the new thing. Like, oh, if I could just hit 100, right? All of my problems will be solved. Everything will be fantastic. Everything in my life is going to be cured. When you first get started in entrepreneurship or chasing success of any kind, obviously the dollar amount is one of the focuses, right? I think we'd be remiss and we'd honestly be lying if that weren't the case and if we didn't call that out. And I think one thing is, as you start to achieve those different levels, you really start to realize, for one, these like pie in the sky numbers that we think are really, really big and are going to solve all of our problems, they rarely do, right? I remember when we signed on like our first 4 or 5 clients and we hit that 10K a month, like recurring price point that we thought, that's a 6-figure income. That should be life-changing. And mind you, this is back in 2018. That doesn't even take into account like current day inflation and everything. We thought that number would be insane. And then we hit it. And, you see the money coming in and the money leaving the bank account every month, and you kind of go, shit, 10K a month just isn't enough, right? And it's not like we were out there spending crazy amounts, but by the time, we at the time moved to Arizona, put a deposit down on the rental that we were doing out there, paid some stuff off, paid down some credit card bills. And by the time you do that first 10K month, it's fleeting, right? It's in and it's out. And you realize, oh crap, that just wasn't enough. And not from like a greed perspective, but from like, it's really not that big of a difference from where I was to hitting that. And then, okay, we really should be chasing, 25, 30, and that'll solve all of our problems, right? But the whole phrase of more money, more problems, like it's real, okay? You hit that 25K point, that 30K a month point in your business, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I have this larger amount coming in, but also my expenses are increased, right? So you're really not profiting that every month. And so every single level that you keep looking at and you keep chasing and it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, you reach those levels and you're like, not that it's not enough, but it just brings a whole new reality. It brings a whole new playing field to the table that you then have to figure out how to navigate. So for one, I would say that hunger, that means of survival is still there regardless of revenue level. And again, it's not from like a greed and I just want more and more and more. It's more about just the realization that continuing to chase that next monetary level, it does not solve all of your problems. As a matter of fact, it might solve some, but it brings on a whole slew of others. And so I remember specifically, we wound up moving to Miami after we saw a great deal of success. And we were living in a penthouse right off Biscayne Boulevard. And, what should have been this surreal moment of like an I made it type of moment, really felt lackluster because there was so much else going on at that point in time. There were so many other problems that we were navigating and growing pains that we were navigating. So we never really got that like that breath of like, I made it, it's good, right? You kind of are still in that fight or flight mode. And so we experienced that all throughout. And I would argue we never really got out of that fight or flight mode because we're so accustomed and used to it. If you know anything about Jordan and my story, we've been in fight or flight mode for like 10 years, okay? Like it's just we live in that constant state of what's next, what's next. So I would say up until recently, that hunger never left because we were still in that mode. We were still in that do or die. We have to make this happen. What's the next phase? We have to solve these problems mode. I would argue that up until this point, 100% of our journey has been running away from pain, right? There's this saying in this world of like, you're either running towards pleasure or away from pain. And to me, hunger and drive, that should be running towards pleasure, right? That should be running towards something greater, dreaming of something bigger, not running away from problems. And if I just get to this next level, these problems are going to be off my plate. And again, it just brings more. So I would say that in recent years, we're finally getting to a phase where we can be what others would describe as hungry, focusing on the positive, focusing on what's to come, focusing on the impact that can be made, focusing on the good, focusing on the pleasure and the things that can be gained from it. And I think, again, it's a lesson that just has to be learned the hard way. And you almost have to train yourself out of that fight or flight. Now, the opposite side of it is, I don't think we would have been as successful as we were, as fast as we were, if we didn't have that pain already existing, if our story didn't start in a running away from pain type of moment. A lot of people, I find, are very comfortable in their current state, right? Even though they might not like where they're at, it might not be their favorite phase of life, they have a okay getting by stance on a month-to-month basis. Whether that be, again, monetary, they're making just enough to make it to the next month, and they're cool with that, or they're just happy enough not to need a change. That's where a lot of people live. They live in that lukewarm area. And lukewarm is a dangerous place to be. I've even found that a few times along our journey where we got to a point and it's like, we can breathe a little bit, but then something happens that rocks us off our toes and we're like right back in the game, right? Lukewarm is a dangerous place to be. So I would say if you're trying to stay hungry, for one, we need to identify either the pain we're running away from and have that be a constant reminder of why we're waking up and doing what we're doing every single day, or we need to constantly be reminding ourselves of what pleasure we're running towards, right? What is the vision? And that could be a vision driven by your own personal pleasure that you're trying to achieve, right? Whether it be a specific, like physique goal you're trying to hit, or, the dream house you want to buy or the dream car, et cetera, right? What's the dream? Or the impact that you want to have on other people. One thing about me right now is I'm not really driven by the materialistic things. I've told Jordan, like, I've had a nice car, I've lived in a nice house, I've kind of checked a lot of these boxes, and I don't really care that much anymore. What I care more about is the work that I get to do every day. Do I enjoy it? Do I enjoy my day from sunup to sundown? And do I enjoy the outcome that I get to have from that, the impact that I get to have from that, right? Am I doing good in the world each day? That's what I care more about than the number in the bank account or the car that I drive or the place that I live or anything like that. It's just not what drives me anymore. It drove me in the beginning, but I think a lot of people find that once they achieve those things, they're a little lackluster. They honestly, in some cases, are a little disappointing. And I know there's some people who are going to be listening to this going off the privilege, right? To sit there and say that, driving that car or living in that house or whatever is quote unquote disappointing. And it's not that. It's just you get there and you're like, this is it. Like, this doesn't feel much different than driving my other car. This doesn't feel much different than, the other 18 places I've lived. This doesn't feel like that euphoric feeling that I thought it would be, right? So I would say if we're going after the materialistic things, I would even say it's almost harder to stay hungry chasing those things versus just chasing a life that you love to live every single day. If you're waking up in a lackluster environment and in an environment that you don't like every day, you've just got to do something about it. And again, being comfortable is the worst possible place that you can be. It's just like chilling and I'm good. We got this from Alex Hormozy, but inside of our business, we kind of adopted one of his core values as our own, and it was grow or die, right? If you're not in a state of growth, you are retracting, whether you notice it or not, whether you see it in the bank account or not, whether you see it in the day-to-day or not. If you are not in a constant state of growth, you are retracting, you are dying, because it takes one thing to trip you up. And if you're not ready for it, if you haven't been growing throughout that time, it can completely rock you off your feet. We've learned that lesson so many times. So, that was kind of a roundabout way to answer it. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all approach. Some people, it's about the stimulus, right? Some people respond better to a pain stimulus, to hitting that rock bottom moment and saying, you know what, F this, no more. Other people respond better to a pleasure stimulus, but I can guarantee you the materialistic pleasure stimulus is never enough. I just want to live in a prettier house, drive a slightly better car. It's not a good enough catalyst to keep that hunger and drive going. It's just not. You need a catalyst that's more values focused and vision driven. That's big, right? People can say a lot of things about Grant Cardone, but I think the one thing that he talks about that is so true is the 10x vision of where you're going, right? The whole thought process of shoot for the moon, you'll land amongst the stars, right? If I'm setting really low, mediocre goals for myself, most goals people fall short of, and I probably am going to fall a little bit short of those, which means I'm going to continuously be performing low. But if I set really, really big, massive, crazy goals for myself, the chances of me being able to come close to them, the inputs that I'll do every single day to drive myself closer to them, it's insane. It's a different person that shows up every day, right? If my goal is to make, a few extra $1,000s a month versus my goal being to make tens of thousands of dollars extra a month, that's two different people who have to show up to the game every single day. If my goal is to get 10 clients and impact 10 people's lives, it's playing a whole different game than if my goal was 10,000 people. I was talking to someone who's developing a software, and their goal right now is 3,000. I want 3,000 users. And yes, to some effect, we want to set realistic goals, right? Smart goals, whatever. But what would our strategy look like if we wanted 10,000 users? What would our strategy look like if we wanted 100,000 users? All of a sudden, it's not about it's like unlock this thing and you're thinking differently. It's a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different set of activities required to get to that point. If I wanted to hit $10,000 a month by the end of the year in a business, guys, I'm here to tell you, some people are going to say oh, it's impossible. No, that's the easiest thing in the world to do, regardless of what business you are in. That is ridiculously simple to hit. A lot of people think it's a big goal. A lot of people think it's a big, crazy one. It's really not. All you have to do is have good enough messaging and a product that people want. And hitting $10,000 a month in any business is that's cake. But hitting $100,000 in a month by the end of the year, now we have to think through a different lens. We're playing a different game. So I think that's the other side of staying hungry, is if we're setting really small goals for ourselves, that growth, it's just not going to happen. And we're not going to show up as the person who we would need to show up as to hit something big, right? The chances of us setting a $10,000 a month goal and stumbling into crazy success, it's virtually zero, right? But if we're really pushing the vision, and we're expanding our thought process on what is possible, we can see the strategy change. We can see the thought process change. We can see, the daily dues of what's required to get there change as it should. So I don't know if I had to sum that up into a 1, 2, 3, identify what you're running away or what you're running towards. Set a very, very clear and concise vision for yourself. And once you hit it, set another one. And this is where I went wrong. Mine was always running away from pain. For 5 years, it was get me out of this current state. Hit another level of success. Okay, get me out of this current state. Get me out of this every single time. Whereas if I had set or understood how to set a goal based on pleasure instead of running away from the negative 24/7, my argument would be we'd be a lot further along. But that's neither here nor there. So identify what you're running from or what you're running towards, because that's always going to be the case, right? Set your why, set your goals. And when you have that vision, double it, 5x it, 10x it. Think about the strategy of what would it require of me to hit 10 times the goal that I'm setting myself. And you know what? It's easy to sit here and say it from a money perspective, right? To say, oh, instead of hitting $10,000 a month, I want to hit $100,000 in a month, right? But even think of it from a units perspective, or from a lives impacted perspective, or from even if you're on a weight loss journey, right? What would it look like to hit it faster in a healthy way? All of those types of things. So that's what I would say there. The next question that I had is, what's the key to retaining clients? This is a big one. Now, we had a good portion of people in our initial business stay with us for 4 and 5 years. There's a few reasons for that. There's a few reasons for why that was possible. I would say point number freaking 1, get them results. That's like the no-brainer. Get your people results. Deliver on what you said you're going to deliver on. Do the thing. I mean, there were so many conversations with me and Jordan behind closed doors, stressing over making sure we delivered for our people. Passionate arguments over how it was going to happen. Because that, for me, from a place of integrity, was always my number one priority. And Jordan's as well. We want to make sure our people get results. So when people would come in and they would have like a crazy overnight success type of thing, are they going to be churning the very next month? Now, I will say some would, right? Some would come in, get 10 clients, 20 clients, and because they had lower goals, they would be like, oh, I met my goal. I'm good. I get to cut this bill and move on. And you know what? That's their prerogative. But for most people, they'd get that taste of success and want to keep going, which is exactly what you want to happen. So if you really want to keep your clients around, number 1, numero uno, is getting them a result. Number 2, the other side of things that we did really well inside of our first company is we created a sense of community around our business. It really was, I know people say, well, it's like a family. No, it legitimately was like a tight-knit family between our clients and our employees and the whole team. Just the whole vibe was very much so a family unit. People really had each other's backs. And that is something that I will be proud of until the day that I die. That is one of the biggest accomplishments that we have had, is creating as tight-knit of a community as that was. That community aspect of I've got you, you've got me. It was viral. It was something that kept people not just attached to the business, but attached to the movement, what we were doing there at a molecular level. So if you can incorporate that sense of community, that sense of tribe, that sense of belonging in your business in any capacity, I mean, customer retention like that. And then on top of that, guys, just provide really good customer service. Make sure when people reach out, their needs are addressed. Now, I will say this is one area that we failed on a few times. Whether that be because we had like a tech issue that we didn't know, and, the support emails weren't making their way to us, Or at one point, we basically had too many support channels. And so we had things trickling in from all angles. So it was really hard to keep track of moving someone's ticket all the way through to a resolution. Whether it be because, in the beginning with growing pains, poor documentation of resolutions, right? Of what we can do to move someone's thing all the way through to the end, or whether it be because at one point in time, we just had really bad follow-up. Some people will submit a support ticket and will reply to it, but maybe they don't see the reply. It gets buried, it gets lost. And that's on us to continue to follow up with that person to see that ticket through to the end. There were several mistakes that we made along the way in that regard that we've learned from, but just making sure to have that top tier customer service. That's one of the lessons that I especially took away from our first business. That's a priority for me going into this next one is I want really, really high quality responses, speed of getting people's issues addressed, and making sure that they feel that Ritz-Carlton-like 5-star service from the get-go when dealing with your business. It's basically just doing what you can to keep people happy. Now, I know, especially in the present day, there's this push and pull, especially on social media, of whether or not the customer is always right? And you're going to deal with some Karens. You're going to deal with some people who come in and just have these absurd expectations. We'll have people who've, submitted a support ticket. And I kid you not, within 2 minutes, they're, posting in our community or, even putting out a review saying like, I submitted a support ticket, no one's gotten back to me. And I'll go look at the timestamps. I'm like, it's been 2 minutes. You'll have some people with absurd expectations. The most important thing is that you always keep your head on you. And there were points in times where, whether it be someone on my team, whether it be Jordan, whether it be myself, maybe we got a little hot-headed in that moment. And sometimes that frustration may have made its way onto the client. Sometimes it may have kind of festered within the team and kind of dulled everyone's day, which then goes and impacts the way that everyone else deals with clients and customers that day. That negativity, it's like this toxic little bug that just latches onto everybody and just goes all the way around. And I will say, I 100% have done that before, where I've, gotten a response and I've been like, oh my God, just so pissed, or let it get me frustrated, let it get me flustered, etc. The number one thing you can do is just let it go. Just still proceed, service with a smile, follow the policy, and keep moving on. And there's some people where it might feel impossible to do that. But the more you can just maintain that consistency in your composure, the better customer service results you're going to have. So again, as far as retaining clients, number one, results. Provide a good service and people will want to stick around, period. Number two, having that sense of community, that sense of tribe, that sense of family. If you can master that, it is invaluable to your business. And then third, just 5-star customer service, making sure people's needs are addressed, they are addressed timely, and that our quality of response is high. Which, by the way, this is one thing that I struggled with personally, is being able to train my team on quality of response in a way that also keeps them efficient. That was the nuance there. Being able to train them on being able to ask all the right questions, being able to give in-depth responses that minimized the back and forth, and that felt like an overwhelming solution to the client's problem. That there was a nuance there in doing it efficiently. Because I know myself, I can solve a customer support issue in one email. I don't even have to have a ton of back and forth, but I'll sit there and think through that email for like 20, 30 minutes and word it and reword it to make sure I hit on the client's every singular little issue inside of it, which is also not a good thing for efficiency, right? And you don't want to train your team into overthinking either. So there's a balance, right? There's an art to it, but especially if you can get quality and speed of response, if you can master both, and a lot of that comes from templating, but a lot of it comes through, just great communication skills. That's another thing that really takes the retention of your clientele to the next level. And I think the last piece would just be strategy, right? Having the right monetary strategy to retaining your clients through and through, which to me always boils back down to communication, right? If I have my client on a payment plan, right, that might auto recur after the point, one thing where I wish we would have done it sooner is adding in a call or a reach out 1 to 2 weeks before that auto recur is supposed to happen to ensure they've had a great experience so far, address any of their needs, do all of those things, and remind them of that auto recurring. Because I would much rather get in front of it and a client tell me, oh, no, I wouldn't like to move forwards with this or that. And that's fine, right? Rather than them getting charged and them being angry because, they forgot about the auto recur or whatever the case may be. So that's another thing, is just the strategy behind that over communication is super important. The next one was, how do you stay focused and locked in when growing the business and you fall off track? So I think this is kind of like two questions. So how do you stay focused and locked in when you're growing the business? And more along the lines of, what do you do when you fall off track, probably. So as far as focused and locked in, it's really just about having clear objectives of what you're trying to hit and a timeline to hit it, but also taking it a step further, setting milestones in between and ebbing, flowing, and adjusting from there. So let me set an example, right? If my goal in my business is to hit, I want $10,000 a month by the end of the year. It's just easy math, right? And let's say I have 2 quarters to get there and I'm starting at 0. Well, by, month 3, by the end of that first quarter, I probably want to go ahead and be at around $5,000 a month. Now, let's say I don't hit it. Well, I don't just still necessarily chase that 10,000. I might have to readjust my goal. I need to reflect back on what didn't go well in those first 3 months, what contributed to me not being able to hit that next level, and how can I change my strategy in these next 3 months to either ensure I hit the goal or ensure I get back on track to a rate in which I can hit the goal soon. It's about strategy. You have to take inventory of what's going on and how you're on track to hit it or off track to hit it. Here's the issue that most people have, is they'll wake up on January 1 of any given year and they'll set the goal for that year. This is the year. This is the year I hit a $5,000 month in my business. This is the year I hit a $10,000 month in my business. This is the year I hit this. This is the year I hit that. This is the year I get healthy. This is the year I start this business in the first place. This is the year I finally go after that promotion. This is the year I start focusing on my mental health. This is the year that I start going after insert whatever the hell goal. They don't check in with themselves on that goal throughout the year. And they wake up on December 31st of that same year having made 0 progress, and they set the same exact damn goal again. See, most people will set a goal, but they don't identify what behavior has to change in order to hit and achieve it. As far as staying focused and locked in when you're growing, have a goal and identify the daily, weekly, monthly behavior that is necessary to hit that goal. If I want to focus on my mental health, let's put it like that. First and foremost, this year, I want to focus on fixing my mental health. That is my goal. If I'm going to stay focused on hitting that goal, is scrolling TikTok and a doom scroll for 2 hours every night really going to help me improve my mental health? Probably not. It's probably going to hurt it, right? What I probably should be doing instead is reading a book, adopting meditation, listening to some really positive podcasts or podcasts over mental health so I can learn important tips or tricks or tools in order to improve that. I have to have the daily habit in place that is going to set me up and prepare me for that success and for that goal. And I have to do it every single day. It's about discipline. A lot of people sit around waiting for the right motivation. Motivation is fleeting. It is here today, gone tomorrow. It is in and it is out. What you need is daily inspiration and daily discipline in order to stay focused. Everyone wants, the magic pill, right? Everyone wants the magical unicorn poop that they're going to sprinkle on everything and it's going to make them hit their goals. And guys, it doesn't exist. It's daily discipline and it's adopting the habits and the behaviors necessary in order to hit that goal. So you have to sit there if you're wanting to stay focused, if you're wanting to set a goal, set it and then figure out what's required to hit it. Right? So if I have a monetary goal that I want to hit for my business, set it. I want to hit $6,000 a month in my business, or I want this promotion, or I want, again, to focus on my mental health. Set a parameter for what that looks like, right? What is a positive outcome or a health goal, whatever it is. Then decide on what is reasonably, and the key word there is reasonably, necessary in order to hit it. For example, if I have a business goal, I want to land 100 new clients by the end of the month. Well, is a reasonable action to do every day, when I'm just starting out, to post 10 stories, make 3 reels a day, make 5 feed posts a day, so on and so forth? I'm just starting. So probably not. I don't have a social media manager. I can't be doing this full time. That's not a reasonable goal. I'm setting myself, or a reasonable behavior to adopt from day one. I'm setting myself up for success. Setting myself up for failure, excuse me. People do this all the time with dieting, right? They'll set a goal. This month I want to lose 10 pounds. That's reasonable. But then the behavior that they tell themselves they have to adopt is, I want to eat less than 500 calories. Not reasonable. I want to eat only fruit, or I'm going to do apple cider vinegar every single morning on my path to do it, which, no thank you. They just said something insane, right? That's like, I'm going to do this every day, or I'm going to cold turkey cut out all caffeine, or cut out all sugar, or they'll just do too much at once, right? So they'll go from, eating a 3,000 calorie day with, some fried food, some sugar, some soda, all the different things that are normal. And they'll say, okay, starting tomorrow on this diet, I'm cutting out all soda, I'm cutting out all sugar, I'm cutting out all carbs. I'm only going to eat chicken and vegetables, and with no seasoning and with no anything. And I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and run every single day. And I'm going to drink ACV, and I'm going to do this cleanse. And they just stack and stack and stack. And it's like, we're setting ourselves up for failure, because that's not reasonable behavior to adopt. Or we'll set the goal and then we won't even set a behavior at all. And we'll just keep doing the same thing and then be like bummed when we didn't hit the goal. If you really want to stay focused on hitting a goal, set reasonable behaviors that you can adopt on a daily, weekly, monthly basis in order to hit it. So what that might be is, I want to lose X amount by the end of the month. So the 2 behaviors that I'm going to adopt is, I want to go to the gym 3 times a week. I'm currently going 0. If I can go 3, I'm doing good, right? And then on top of going to the gym 3 times a week, I'm just going to cut out fried food. I'm not going to limit anything else. The first step I'm going to take is cut out the fried stuff. And so boom, there's 2 easy rules, one for every day, one for every week, that we can adopt for 4 weeks and see where we land by the end of it. We might hit the goal, we might not. But then what we have the opportunity to do is say, this is where I landed. I just adopted 2 really healthy and great habits for myself. So now I'm going to stack on maybe 1 or 2 more and set a new goal for the next month. And just keep chasing that next thing in a healthy and manageable way. To say in the next 12 months, I want to go from having a $0 a month business to having a $10 million a month business. That's a really big, lofty, insane, crazy goal. I might not reasonably be able to do what's required to hit that, right? But if I say, okay, by the end of the year, I'd love to be at 100K a month in my coaching business, which means, if I can hit 10K a month in my first month, or even 5, I know I'm doing good. So what's going to be required to hit this first milestone, and what behavior can I adopt to do it? So for example, when Jordan and I first started our business, our initial goal was 10K a month in 90 days. So what we did was, every single day I had a smaller habit that I wanted to adopt. It was nothing crazy. All I did was reach out to between 20 and 40 local businesses in the area, asking if they would let us do a free trial for them. Easy as that. Would reach out, say, hey, we're 2 college kids in the area. We just learned this Facebook marketing stuff. I'd love to test it out on your business for free if you'll allow me. completely free. All we ask is that you cover the ad spend, right? You give Zuckerberg $100 in ad spend with our strategy. We see if it works. If not, no harm, no foul, right? I would send that out to 20 to 40 businesses a day in the Lubbock area. And guess what? Instead of hitting the 10K by 90 days, we hit it in 30. All because of one simple habit adopt. Now, obviously, we have to send out the messages, then have meetings with the people. There's follow-up actions, but the habit that was adopted was the messages. So what's the goal? And what is the small daily habit or weekly habit that I can adopt to get me there? That's what keeps you focused. Focus on a goal, a long-term goal, is really, it's habits. It's not even really focus, it's habits. What we need to be focused on is what I need to do each day in order to hit the goal. Yeah, write the goal down, put it on your vision board, all of the things, but people think that if I just write my goal down every day, something magical is going to happen and I'm going to be able to hit it. If I just put it on my vision board, the universe is going to be universing and then I'm going to hit it. Not the case. Okay, that's the first step. That is like the tiniest first step you could possibly take, is writing the goal down every day and putting it on the vision board. And we think focusing on that, we're going to hit it. You won't. You have to reverse engineer the goal into the daily habit and the daily behavior that is required to hit that goal. Then and only then will we even be able to do it. So instead of just focusing on the goal, focus on what is required daily in order to do it, in order to chase it, in order to get better at that craft, whether it be a new hobby we're adopting, a business that we're doing, again, or improving our general mental or physical health. Doesn't matter what it is. It all boils down to what you do every single day. That's what's going to unlock that for you. So that's what I would say for staying focused on the goal. And then falling off track is a whole different story, because everyone and their mother has fallen off track more times than you can count. But it's about getting back on track. For one, you have to have the inspiration to do it, not the motivation, the inspiration. They are different. Inspiration more so comes from within, of that just hunger and desire to do the thing. Motivation is fleeting, right? I saw a video on YouTube of a guy saying, get off your ass and just do it. And so that motivated me for 5 seconds, but it's fleeting, right? It's here and it's gone. Inspiration sticks. Inspiration is something that you wake up with every single day and you're like, that's the thing, that's the thing, that's the one I'm going after. So in order to get back on track, you don't need to find the motivation. Everyone always, how do you get the motivation to do this? How do you get the motivation to do that? It's not motivation. You have to wake up with the inspiration. You have to have a goal that is big enough to inspire you to get back on track. That's the thing. So again, this is where it goes back to what I said earlier about small goals versus big goals. If I'm trying to lose 5 pounds, that might not be a big enough goal to inspire me to get my ass into gear every single day, right? But if instead I set a goal that by the summertime next year, I'm going to have my bikini body that I've been telling myself I wanted all these years, or by the end of the year, I want to finally compete in that fitness competition, or again, whatever it may be, set a bigger goal. That's enough to inspire. That's enough to put the pictures on the vision board and do all the things. And again, reverse engineer it to the daily habits that we must require, the daily habits that we must acquire in order to hit that goal, in order to make it a reality. When we fall off track, reignite that inspiration, not the motivation, the inspiration, the inner drive to do it. Then set the habit, and it's non-negotiable. Wake up and do it every single day. Set accountability for yourself to do it. If you find that you suck ass at holding yourself accountable, get yourself a drill sergeant to be able to hold yourself accountable. One thing that I know about myself as I was growing up, when I was, trying to get when I was trying to adopt new tricks, new tumbling, in cheerleading, I frequently would actually have to change coaches because I would get so comfortable with a particular coach and they would lose their ability to hold me accountable to the things that I wanted and needed. They wouldn't be able to do it. And so when I would find that comfort zone with a coach, I would not be growing. I would not adopt new skills. I would be able to kind of cheat the system on conditioning and workouts and whatever it may be. And they wouldn't be able to help me hit that next level that I wanted to hit when I was comfortable with them. When I wasn't comfortable with them, when it was a new coach who I hadn't figured out just yet, I didn't know what buttons I could pull, and they were vehemently holding me accountable, it worked, right? There's something about, fitness and money, it all kind of goes together. There's something about when you're trying to lose weight and you're in a group chat and everyone has to send a picture of their meal each day. I've been involved in a few of those. Like every single meal you're sending what you're eating. Well, damn it, I can't send a picture of my 20 McDonald's chicken nuggets. So I guess I'm gonna make a better decision, right? Or a decision that's more in alignment with the behaviors that I committed to adopting. So as far as falling off track, accountability is a big thing and inspiration is a big thing. Those are the two things that I always search for. I want to have the accountability in place and I want to have the inspiration in place. Maybe that's investing in it with like a personal trainer or a coach or whatever that may be. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's your pastor or whoever else. Maybe you just need someone outside of yourself to have that accountability with you. So that's what I would say for when you fall off track.